Hello, everyone. Good afternoon and good evening. Thanks for taking time and joining us for the discussions today. I'm Smitha Rao, co-founder of Utthunga. We are industrial automation, product engineering, services and solutions company. We are a team of 800 engineers and we have a presence in USA, Europe, Japan and India. And we are a Profibus and Profinet Competence Center in India. And as a PICC representative, we are conducting this insightful session on the recent development in Profinet and what are some of the things that industry need to be aware of. To talk on this topic, who better to get these insights other than the chairman of Profibus International himself, Mr. Carsten Snyder. So we have Mr. Carsten Snyder from Germany here with us. Thanks a lot for being part of this session today, Mr. Carsten Snyder.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much. And so I just let me give a brief introduction, introduce Mr. Carsten Snyder. Mr. Carsten Snyder started his career with Siemens in corporate technology 25 years ago. He held various positions in research and development and marketing for Simatic products. In 2006, Carsten Snyder headed the Profibus and Profinet Competence Center in North America. He was elected as a chairman of Profibus and Profinet International in 2012. Today, he is responsible for standardization and regulation at Siemens Digital Industries. He is an active in Platform Industry 4.0 initiative as well and member of the board of Industrial Digital Twin Associations. Thanks again, Carsten, for taking time off from your busy schedule and being part of these sessions today.
You're welcome.
Before we start, a few logistics for our audience here. Kindly use the comment section for any remarks and questions that you have for Carsten, and we'll bring these up towards the end of the sessions. So yeah, let's get into a few important questions that I have it for you, Carsten. With reference to Profibus International tagline initiative, that is Go Digital and Go Profinet. What is Profinet of things and what does it mean for industries in this world of heterogeneous systems and protocols?
The idea behind this is all these new business models you want to do with the digitalization or digital transformation are based on data. You need to have data to do something new and work with it. And in the past, the data was kind of hidden in devices, in networks, and somewhere in your plant, and you didn't have really access to it. So what we thought is Profinet being based on industrial Ethernet can be the backbone in your factory, which makes all that data available and accessible so that you as a user can use it and build your business models on top of it. And it must be easy to be used and not too difficult. So the idea is really with Profinet, connect all the devices, access the data, and not only with Profinet, with other protocols as well. It's not standard Ethernet. Profinet provides the infrastructure and enables the usage of that data and makes it easy for the users.
Yeah. Thanks, Carsten, for providing insights into PI's vision and how important it is. So, as per the recent study that was conducted, there are more than 100 millions of Profibus and Profinet installations in the industries. And but still, most significant portion of this installation is still a legacy Profibus product. For them who would like to migrate from Profibus to Profinet, what should they consider as part of their migration strategy?
Yeah, I'm always surprised by that even by now. When I started with SPI chairman 10 years ago, there were more Profibus nodes every year installed than Profinet nodes. And Profinet was in the beginning, and everybody thought when we introduced Profinet, now we put a superior system based on Ethernet with all these new features in the market, it will take over quickly, but it took quite some time. A few years back now, we had the tipping moment when there were more Profinet nodes every year sold than Profibus nodes. But still, there's a huge amount of Profibus nodes out there running. Considering that Profibus is now 30 years old, it's really a tremendous success, of course. And it shows how important it is for us as an association to make sure that the investment of the users is protected. So we make sure that if they want to use their Profibus products and want to continue to use them, we will support them with that. Because there's no reason to strip it out if you don't, if everything's work and you're fine with it, then why not using it? And there are even new Profibus devices produced every year. But saying that is, of course, if you want to participate on the new features and want to be part of that digital transformation, you have to switch to Profinet, because the traditional serial field buses like Profibus can't provide that. They don't have the bandwidth. They can't share multiple protocols on the same network. They don't can't provide the same level of access to data than Profinet can. So my advice would be to any supplier, of course, if they are building Profibus product and haven't started Profinet yet, they should really start right away, because the users now, they are more and more demanding Profinet products because they want to do all these new features and use new features, want to be part of the digital transformation. They want to have the bigger bandwidth, they want to have larger networks and the ease of use of Ethernet. And so my advice would be, as for suppliers, start implementing Profinet if you haven't so. And as a user, of course, get yourself familiar. There's many training possibilities out there in the PI world to get familiar with Profinet. That it is, of course, in the beginning, it's a little bit different than Profibus, sure, because it's Ethernet, the other is a serial field bus, but it's not difficult. Most of the users told me that when they did the switch, they were surprised that it's way easier than a normal field bus. And so my advice to users would be, get familiar with the technology if you haven't done so, and start implementing it. And then you can participate with all the new features.
Yeah, thanks, Carsten. I think this is very important to know how important it is to move to Profinet to bring the benefits of Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. Thanks for that. So now, as we all know, for the successful adoption of any technology, the supplier ecosystems plays an important role. And for industries, what is your, as per your understanding, what are your strengths and weaknesses for the current Profibus and Profinet suppliers, and what do the industry have to consider during their procurement process?
Mhm. I think it was in the beginning a learning curve from Profibus to Profinet for the supplier. They had to get used to all the new features and used to how to implement it. And our goal is always to have an interoperable system across vendor systems, so that as a user you can buy from supplier A, B, C, and D, and everything works
Yeah.
together. And when Profinet started to get larger and larger, we had some issues with that, because it was not so easy for the device manufacturers to keep up with the functionality and keep up with providing interoperability tests and so on. And that's why we introduced quite a few years ago our new test system that we have now installed in all our test labs worldwide to raise the level of interoperability. And I think we did a great job there, because from what we hear now from end users these days is that they are very, very happy with the cross-vendor interoperability, because that's really our goal. As a user, you should be free to select from which vendor you buy your products. And so I think this is a real strength these days, that we have many, many devices from many, many different vendors. But of course, I would hope that we, in certain areas, motion drives or so, that we still even can get more vendors, especially the new field now, where we say with PA, Profinet for the process industry. There I of course hope that more and more vendors or device manufacturers jump on the bandwagon and start implementing Profinet in their product the same way as they did with Profit Bus, because of course there still we have too few devices. So that's certainly a goal for us at PI to push the suppliers more into that direction, that they provide products for that. But other than that, I think we have a huge amount of different devices from many vendors.
Yeah, that's wonderful, Carsten, to know that interoperability is the main challenges in the current industries, and definitely Profinet is playing a major role in providing the vendor-neutral products and technology to benefit the end-user industry. It's very nice. So, next question that I have it for you is, Profibus plays a big role as part of sensor and controller level, but when it comes to machine communications, how Profinet is going to be relevant? If you can throw some light on that, that would be great.
Uh-huh. Well, Profinet is planned from the beginning as a plant level network. So it should run through your entire plant, not only from the controller to the sensor, but from the controller to the next controller, from one machine to another machine, through the entire plant, so that you really have the information accessible. Because in the past you had several layers of different networks, and then you always had to, well, move or map or copy the data from one network to another network, and this was a real burden. And with Profinet, I think we got over that, and so you have now one network from the sensor up to the plant level. Of course, since Profinet is based on Ethernet, you have the option to use different protocols in that mix as well. For instance, for vertical communication, OPC UA would be a great fit. And even for some machine-machine communication, as at PI, we said, why not using OPC for machine-to-machine communication? Profinet is the infrastructure for that and provides the information there. So I think these two networks nicely fit together, and with that, you really have one Ethernet-based system for your entire plant, not only in the machine, but from machine to machine as well.
Okay, that's yeah, very good to know, Carsten. So yeah, next is my question is a little more technical. So we do have a lot of Profinet profiles, especially like Profi Drive, Profi Energy, Profi Safe. So, but how much of these technical Profinet profiles that end user industry should be know of? Do you think that if they are aware of these profiles, will it benefit them? Will it help them to make a better decision when choosing the which technology to go for?
Absolutely. I'm convinced that it would help them quite tremendously. Of course, you can run a Profinet network, or Profibus is the same, without any profile if you wish to. You can use your input-output data in a very traditional way. But when we introduced the profile, the idea was, again, first of all, interoperability between different vendors, so that when you pick a device from vendor A and then add a device of vendor B, you don't have to do anything different, because the profile basically gives an information model to the device, and it's the same for every vendor. So if you say you have a Profi Energy profile, then it automatically maps that energy consumption information in a standardized information model, regardless of whatever vendor it is or manufacturer it is the device from. With Profi Drive, it goes even further, because there are state machines and all that logic already encapsulated as well. So for the user, it's much easier to use a device with a profile than to do the same functionality without the profile, because then he needs to do everything by hand, everything by programming and configuration. With Profi Drive, he just says, okay, I want to use the Profi Drive protocol 105, and you select that on both ends of the
Yeah.
line, and you're done. Everything is configured, set up, and regardless of the manufacturer of the product. And I think it's a tremendous benefit to use profiles, because it makes life so much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Carsten. I think this is very important and helpful tips for the from the end users, because if they know aware of what profiles that it is being available, that will help them to make a better decision. Thanks for throwing some light on that. So next, my question is related to the Ethernet APL. So we understand that right now the industry is moving towards from the two-wire systems to the Ethernet APL technologies. So and we also see a lot of interest in this, because as a company we are also getting a lot of inquiries in from our customers on having a Ethernet APL as part of their field instrument devices. So now, what does Profinet over Ethernet APL mean for the industries?
I think it's a big breakthrough because today, as a process automation, especially hazardous environments like oil and gas and other industries, chemical, are still need separate networks because of the environment, because of the intrinsically safety, because they need power over very long distances, and so on and so on. And you couldn't do that with Ethernet because there was no standard. Ethernet itself doesn't provide a standard for these environments. And so you could use either Profibus, or you could use hard, or even 4 to 20 milliampere is still one of the most widely used protocols, let's say. This is not really a protocol, but that is used throughout the industry. And of course, this is fully analog. This is not digital. So with Ethernet APL, we now can provide an infrastructure even into that areas, and we really have digital communication from a sensor that sits in a hazardous area right at a tank or wherever, and can report digitally the communication, the information, not only the value, but all the other information of that device in a digital way through Profinet. And so it really gives us the chance to use Profinet in every application, and not only factory or motion or food and beverage or applications like that. So it really helps to spread our technology in the process automation environment as well.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Carsten. So when it comes to Ethernet APL, will it be a costly migration from the standard Ethernet to the two-wire cabling for both
Uh,
end user industry and the supplier perspective? You can differentiate both of them.
Absolutely not. The good thing is when we designed Ethernet APL, we had that question in mind, because it doesn't help if you then need very special cable, because we are talking here about very long distances, up to 1,000 meters and so on. It must be easy and well, cheap. And so Ethernet APL was spec'd in a way that you can use even traditional Profibus fieldbus cable, and so existing cable that's already there in your plant and maybe is already laid out, you can use that for Ethernet APL as well. That was one of the design constraints right from the beginning.
Well, that's very good to know, Carsten, that all these things was considered during the design phase itself of this Ethernet APL. Very happy to know. So, for this adoption in the future, adoption of this Ethernet APL and Profinet over Ethernet APL, are you anticipating any challenges or resistance?
Well, I think the challenge as well is the number of available devices. So
Yeah.
Ethernet APL was just released last year, so the manufacturers are now in the process to develop these devices and provide them. So what I heard from the market is that, for instance, in August, we have a big fair here in Germany for the process automation. I heard from many suppliers that they will show their first devices there. And I think the number of available devices will be the key issue for adoption, because the technology is relatively simple to use and very easy. It's like Ethernet. You connect it and it runs, and you get very good diagnostic information. But the number of available devices will be the limiting factor. But I think it's important that the users now start to look into the technology and tell the suppliers what devices they want, because I think they can get used to the technology now. They can experience with it. We have some pilot applications here in Europe, and the users should start looking into the technology and tell their supplier, hey, we want more of these devices. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Carsten. So now the number of PROFINET installation is growing exponentially in the last 12 years. Overall, like there are 30 years of Profibus International existence. In that last 12 years, PROFINET installation have grown significantly high. And we, as per one of the report that we have studied, in the just last 1 year, there has been 22% increase in the installation compared to the previous year. So what do you think is the reason for this success? And from the Profibus International perspective, what is the future growth anticipated?
Mhm. Yeah, I think the main reason for that success is that more and more users are now looking into the digital transformation and want to use that in their plans. In the beginning, when we're looking 10, 15 years back, uh, and we introduced Ethernet, many voices were there, oh, Ethernet doesn't work in factories. It was designed for office. It will never work. So there was in the beginning a lot of hesitation. But once first customers were using it and figure out, hey, it's a really very reliable, robust solution, uh, they started to started to grow and grow. And now with the Industry 4 movement, where there's an additional push from the market to use more data in your plans and have that available, the the people really ask for it. The demand was tremendous, and that's why I think we see these straight, very strong growth curve. And I believe that will take on for quite a while because the end users just started to go that route. Of course, here in Germany, you have many of the big car manufacturers, for instance, they are really ahead of the pack and really working on that for quite some years now. But the majority worldwide, I think, is still in the phase of, oh, well, let's get used to it. Let's see what we can do
Yeah.
with it. Let's set up our business models, and all these will follow. And so I
Yeah.
think the growth curve will be big for quite some time because it will take some time until everybody jumps on it. But I think there is a strong interest, a strong need in the market, and Profinet has the answers for that. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Carsten. That thanks for beautifully answering all my questions. So we do have a few questions from our audiences. Maybe I will just take a few minutes of my time to go through them and get your answers for them.
Mhm.
So one of the question that we have here is when will we see the new generation Profinet devices with Ethernet APL in the market?
Yeah, I think first we will see first devices this year. I'm pretty sure about that. There's a lot of suppliers that ask us for certification now, and we're in the final stages of finish all the device certification, what you need to test. And so I think this year will be the year where the devices come to the market. There are some pilot plans, as I know of.
Yeah.
That I've seen some reports about that. So I think we're that close to ready, to being ready. Uh,
Yeah, very nice. Good to know.
uh,
Yeah. So my next question is, with increased adoption of Profinet, will we see a complete discontinuation of Profibus support of devices in the coming years? Very interesting question.
it's a very interesting question, but I would say no, because as long as there's customers using it, there will be support, at least from the PI perspective, of course. I know that some suppliers moved completely from Profibus to Profinet, but the majority still keeps their Profibus offering. Why should they discontinue it if they still can sell it? And we as an organization will provide support. But of course, saying that is we will not continue to develop Profibus any further. It is as it is
Okay.
today. The spec will stay the
Yeah.
same. We will have our trainings. We will have our certification. We will have our competence centers, of course, but we will not continue to improve it. All that is happening on Profinet.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Carsten, for making it very clear on the plans of Profibus as well as the Profinet from the Profibus international perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah, my next question from our audience is, yeah. So yeah, we spoke about PROFINET profiles, but how is it different from OPCUA information model?
Um, from a first point of view, it's not so different, especially if you look at a profile like Profi Energy. But if you look at more specific profiles like the PA profile or the Profi Drive or Profi Safe profile, then there is a lot of business logic built into that profile as well. So state machines and all that kind of things, which at least to my understanding, a companion spec does not provide, because the companion spec is more an information model, while a profile is more like a business logic as well. So that maybe that is the difference between the two.
Okay, yeah. Thanks, Carsten. So, yeah, from my side, I think we have covered everything that I wanted to discuss with you today. Any final thoughts from you, Carsten, before we conclude this session?
Well, for me, it's just time to say thank you to you, especially to Utthunga, to you, Smitha, for your support of the community, because that is what really makes PI such a great organization. All the different competence center, training centers, local organizations in all the different places in the world. We are in more than 30 countries worldwide. So there's always local support in the local language, in the local time zone, short to reach, and I think this is what makes PI special, and what makes it so unique. So my thank you goes to you that you are part of this, and help to promote the technology. And I can only encourage all the users, get in touch with competent centers like you are, and ask your questions, because they really can help you.
Yeah, thank you, Carsten, for your kind words. I wish we could go on and on. However, we have almost at the end of these sessions, and once again, sincere thanks to you for coming on board and discussing with us on this topic. And thanks to all our audience here for taking your time to listen to us today. And we will be having more sessions on this Profibus and Profinet related topic in the coming months. Stay tuned. Till then, good day. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you, Carsten. Yeah, bye.